Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dear Hallmark. My name is Dara, and this is a space where I like to just talk shop about Hallmark movies, the TV shows, and other stuff like that. And I normally talk about those things by myself, but I am not by myself today. We have a visitor, so please be sure to get your fuzziest socks, your comfiest blankets, because we're about to have a chat for real. We're about to just put up both feet on the sofa or on the coffee table because we're about to have a chat with director extraordinaire Brandon Clark. Sir, how are you doing?
Hey, how we doing? That's a no breaks monologue right there. I like it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, thank you for coming into the home of Dear Hallmark, numero uno. But number dos, I want to know what is the last movie you saw where you just like broke out in so much laughter you couldn't contain yourself?
Oh, that's a good question. The last movie where I broke out the side, we haven't had one in a while, I think. Oh my
Mm,
gosh.
that's
This
saying
is a good
something.
question because of that.
That's saying
Last
something.
movie I particularly saw might be an old movie I saw again. You know what? The other day I was flipping through the channels and I have to say old school came on and I just started laughing my butt off because I had to. I mean, I have no choice. I mean, there's some kind of like mix between, Wilson and Vaughn and and Farrell that just blended just right. I don't know why, and it's a little clowny, but that's okay.
Yeah.
It's one of those mindless kind of movies that make
Yeah.
me as a director stop looking at cinematography and shots and timing and stuff, and I can just enjoy it
I
and
like
laugh.
that. I like that. Is there another movie like that for you? It doesn't have maybe not in the comedy genre, but is there another movie like that for you where you can it lets you take off your director hat?
It's hard because a lot of times I want to learn from them or I want to see the
Mm,
mistakes and not have that or appreciate what they've done and what their style and formality is. But I think it's common. I was just talking to Trevor Donovan about this. We were laughing. I was bringing up Rob Schneider because I just saw him at a premiere and he did a movie Hot Chick, which is like just crazy.
yeah.
And I'm like, man, no, I watch it because it's mindless. Like I literally don't have
Mm,
to think about anything like this. And I
mhm.
remember even I think I said to Rob, like I yelled across the room, was like, "It's me, Bristow!" And just because I don't know why I find it so incredibly funny, but
Yeah.
it's the mindless stuff. And then I have a certain taste with comedy, so I don't know why I'm not a big like slapstick guy. So
Okay.
like with I worked with Neil Patrick Harris and Kevin, and it's like we have a different style of things, and so and I think there's three styles of comedy and stuff that are important. Comedy is comedy, but I just find it's hilarious that I watch the opposite of what I do, and
Mm.
I don't know. Then I don't have to think about that stuff. So
You're saying
it's
something
hard for me to
there.
say. It's hard to say that there's a movie I would watch that's not comedy to get my mind off that. I'm trying to think of what that would be. Hmm.
Mm.
I don't know. Okay, I can think of something. Okay, I'll tell you why. This might be surprising. If okay, so I don't have to look at the cinematography and things when there's a typical love story because this isn't my normal space, so I'll focus on the love story. Like
Mm.
I'd watch Titanic again or Pearl Harbor again, if that makes sense, and
Okay.
not indulge in all of the cinematography. Now I'll appreciate it and I won't dive into every scene by scene, but I'm more watch those love stories and see how they turn because those drive those kind of movies. Even though they're high action, they drive those kind of movies. I mean, it's
Yeah.
Michael Bay doing a love story. I'm like, what? So
Yeah. It's so interesting it's so interesting you say that because I used to do a literature podcast and the authors that I would interview, one of them, Joanna Davidson Politano, she told me how she reads the genres different from what she writes in. So she writes romance,
mhm.
but she'll read like sci-fi or mystery. So it's interesting
Right.
that you say that. That's so interesting. I know for me, it wasn't a movie, but a TV show that I've been rewatching Living Single on Hulu. And I see it just makes you laugh when I just say the name. Like I didn't realize how funny that show was and is. It's so timeless. And I'm having the best of times rewatching that show. It's the best.
Timeless is important. I think you can't give a better compliment than to say something is timeless.
Yes.
That is a beautiful art form because if you can carry that universal language onto the screen, oh my gosh, and you can defy time, you are blessing art. and you're blessing the people that watch it. And that is cool.
Yeah, I think that's so true for any type of performative art, like music, plays. If the heart of it, like if there's heart in it, and if it can transcend generations and ethnicities, like I think that is what
Amen.
makes art the most beautiful. Like I love that it can speak to all races, all generations. Like it can really impact everyone. Like it, like can't nobody watch Living Single. The fact that you even laughed when I said it just proves that you can't sit there and watch this show and not laugh. Like I think that speaks to something, and you hit the nail right on the head. So, all right, let's get into it. Let's take our fork and knife and dive into the steak that is our conversation. So, you are a director, as I mentioned before, but you all like you're no stranger to the film industry at all. And you hinted this a little bit because you were here promoting Engagement Plot. But can you tell the people a little bit, just a little bit about your history, but then focus more so on because you've experienced the almost like all of those jobs in the film industry, what made you stick with directing? Like why not a DP or sound or editing? Like what made you stick with directing?
Oh wow, this is a powerful question. Asking me is dangerous.
We got
By the
time.
way, I
This
love
is
steak, so it's a win-win situation.
hey, listen,
So you're speaking my language here.
let's do it. Let's do it.
um, wow, the powerful thing here is my grandfather might have been that influence on me. As a kid, I was the crazy one who always knew what I wanted to do, and people thought I was nuts. I took some time to focus on sports, so got away from the acting. And there was like a time in my life where he's like, "Do you want to do that, or do you want to do this?" I'm like, "No, these kids are a little weird for me. I want to play sports right now." But that was just me being a kid and being honest and blunt. And my grandpa's like, "All right, go do it." But he did say something extremely powerful to me on his show with Bo Derek. He did a show called Wind on Water. I think it was ahead of its time. It was actually his retirement, and NBC called him and asked him to come back. So we can't shoot this show. We're spending more money than ever unless you're going to oversight this. So he went out there to do
Mm.
it. And I came to visit him for about 3 weeks. The first day I went right to set, and he's like, "What are you doing? You just came out, you got in at midnight, 4 a.m. I got all these plans for you to go surf and do your favorite things." And I was like, "No, I want to come to set with you." And he looked at me, he's like, "You are my freaking grandson." So I
Oh,
wandered around. He introduced me to every single person. He started with the PAs, the catering. It's a long story. I shared it at his funeral, actually. But it's a beautiful story.
oh, I'm
But
sorry.
one thing he did say to me, the last person at the very, very end. Oh no, he's rocking heaven. He's my was my best friend. But one thing I learned really powerful from him is he took me to the last person on set. And he goes, "Okay, here's an entry level position." And I go to shake his hand. He goes, "This is the director." And he goes, "We're all here to hold his hand." Did it right in front of him. And he was like, and he grabs me and turns me around. And he goes, "Brandon, one day you're going to make one of the greatest directors, but I want you to do something for me. Do everybody else's job first." And so, and even film school, like I went to film school for a little bit, but I was already in the union, focus pulling, operating while I was in college. So I had grinded to join the union in 600, and then I right after that did it with Grip Electric and stuff, and just to so do I could do everything,
Mhm,
and touch hands on everything, but not just do the job one time to
mm,
experience it. It
mhm,
was to earn the right of what these people go through so hard to get to that position, like
mhm,
what my father did, who worked his way all the way up to be a DP. And the experience that you get from that, the language. There is no film school in the world that can
mm,
prepare you for what you get in the trenches. And
mm.
I'll say this wholeheartedly to any student or any person.
Yeah.
And I could see the dichotomies while I was in film school and doing that. And the things that I realized, I looked like I was an observer looking in, because I was like,
Mhm,
this is the fantasy land, and then here's reality.
mm,
And I can't even count to you how many people out of the couple hundred that were in film school with me that never did anything. I mean, I probably know one, to be honest with you. And
wow.
the reality check is, and some of them can do it for a little bit, but I'm talking about in later years now that I know
Yeah.
that continued on. It's a struggle, it's a grind. You must love what you do and have so much passion to do it. Here's the blessing from this. Because I did that, there's two major things. One is you can honor your crew at an incredible level like never before, and realize the value and intricacy and the actual significance of every single role they have for you. And then you realize the paintbrush of every department. But the most powerful thing, and I hate saying it, but it's the truth in this business, is you see through the BS, and you know
Mm,
who's full of crap and who's talented and who's not, and what's
mm,
going on, and who also most importantly matches your taste buds. There
Mm,
has to be a cohesiveness to that and a flavor that you're balancing on the zone of, and you're going in the trenches, and it's a war to finish a movie. And
mm.
not to make it sound so intense, but it really is. And I believe relationships and that cohesiveness and alignment and taste buds show up on the lens when you're all working together.
Yeah.
So I would give that as my short answer.
The microwave version instead of the crock pot
I
version.
might give a little deeper if you press it. So,
I'm about to. So get ready. I'm about
uh
to
oh.
because like you mentioned, there's so many things I can pull from this, but I'll pull this string. So you know, you mentioned the different areas, but I still like I have this analogy. So you know how people can grow up in
Hmm.
church and they like their parents have a true relationship with Jesus, but you can grow up in church and still not have a relationship with Jesus. And it isn't until you have your
Come
own
on.
personal relationship with Jesus that you can experience what your parents have been experiencing. For you, you grew up around the film industry, like you worked all these jobs, but when did that do you remember a moment where that passion for it clicked in for you and you were like, "Yo, directing, like the lit like how to tell the story through directing, this is what I wanna do." Was that ever a moment for you?
That's a dope question. Shoot. You know, the industry changes so much so fast.
Mm,
There was also a lot of bearing weight. It's almost like being a pastor's son, if I'm going to go in the
mm.
same analogy.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah,
walking around like a PK kid, but the truth is, you have your own identity in the industry, and I was going to do my own thing, my own destiny, my own purpose that God's intended me to be.
yeah.
And in that, I had to faithfully rock in that. But God had to shape me in a different way. I had a lot of successes quickly, but I will tell you this: I actually during film school did not direct one thing on purpose, because I made that promise to my grandfather and stuff. Now I was a kid making movies when I was 9. I'm like I was that nuts, but I didn't direct anything in that. What happened was is I served everybody. I actually got in trouble for this because I was supposed to direct some stuff, but I was too busy. And I remember having a conversation with a professor and said, "Listen, is there a difference between all these movies?" He goes, "Yes, I can tell. You've DP'd these movies for these people as the cinematographer, and it's clear as day what projects." And I go, "Yeah." I go, and he goes, "No, but they're standing out incredibly." And I said, "Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That's very kind." And he goes, "No, no, you need to do one of your own." I said, "Listen, I'm here helping everybody." I go, "If you're looking at that, seeing the significant difference between them, what value is that for me in this space right now?" I said, "I'm
Mm,
working in the industry while doing all this stuff." And I said, "But I go, just somehow part the sea for me on this one particular thing." And I explained how to deep talk with him, and he actually accepted it. But I also got a little bit of trouble because I was getting paid at one point because they saw my projects with these other people. And so I was DPing them. And it was really the truth to what my grandfather was saying is they didn't know anything. So I was just there to
mm,
help them and guide them and do it because I knew what I wanted to do from a kid. So here's the blessing in this:
mm,
because I was around that environment, I got to be around some of the very best in the industry and watch. And I used to study cinematographers first because I was
mm,
like, well, that's my paintbrush. And I'm not
mm,
even a tech guy. So I would go to
mm.
Panavision and study cameras and walk in there. And I think a couple times I saw Favreau. He's one of those guys that would study, stuff so much. And there's so many values to that, but it defined me later years as a director. And when I stepped away and gave it up and sacrificed it for character and things, because I was, given into stuff that I just felt like wasn't me, just
Yeah.
for the job. When I gave that up and surrendered and stepped away from the industry, and God called me back into it, and this started going, that was when the shift happened. I mean, I always had passion for it, but
Mm.
the drive and the purpose and the destiny was clear.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden you're just like, oh, more. Okay, let's go. And you learn to not worship or idolize or look up to anything in this. You just enjoy what you do because honestly, I look at it as like God is giving me one of the greatest gifts in the world, which is to do this. And I think I have the best job in the world. I mean, I am so incredibly grateful. And to be able to bless others with jobs and work towards that and constantly give fortitude to things like when people call me for advice and stuff. I mean, it's like an open book. I love that. It's
Yeah.
the greatest feeling ever. And now to define the other question to that is my dad was his own person doing DPing and everything, and now I've called him out of retirement, had him come on shows with me, and it's a different relationship dynamic for
Mm.
sure. It's getting better, but it's tough for him. God bless him. But then I know my grandfather would be so happy to see that.
Mm, mhm.
Um, and now you're gonna make me almost tear up in this, but this is what's so dope. During Happy Camper, I had my cousin's son come and play a role. He played Owen, and his name is Owen, and cutest freaking kid. And she and I are super tight. Always have been all of our lives. I'm at a little monitor, and I had everybody at the big monitors because I needed to be close to them. I want to be close to my actors, and so then she whispers in my ear, and she goes, and I had forgotten about it, and it just gives me chills. She goes, "Man, Rob Dog would be dying and turning over right now in heaven. He's got to be dancing to see all these generations doing this right now."
Wow.
And just all of us together, that my dad was there, she was there, my mom had come that day, and then Owen was there, and it was just a family affair because I grew up seeing this industry as a family business.
Yeah.
And it's been corrupted and egos and all that stuff. That's just what happens in any industry.
Yeah.
But this has been it's been an incredible blessing. And also, if you I got to be straight with you, if I had been asked to do this space 10 years ago, 11 years ago, 12 years ago, I wouldn't have said yes. But see, that's the thing, is like God was reshaping me, going, I don't even care, I just love doing what we do. I think it's a
Mhm.
challenge, right? Like every audience, it deserves the utmost respect. And
Mm.
and I looked at this going, man, this audience, I don't even know, I don't even watch this, but what a cool way. If I'm a true artist, I should have a universal language to speak to.
Yeah.
And so I hope that, yeah, I mean, that's the best way that I could give that. And I find that, like, as the church analogy, it's just finding your own path. It
Yeah.
really is, like, and defining who you are. Like, my path is just different. It completely is different than my grandfather. It was different than my great granddad. It was different than my dad.
Yeah.
Do I appreciate that we have generations? Absolutely. But it never made, I will say this, it didn't make anything easier. Nothing was given.
Mm.
I just found my own thing. Now, there was times where I worked with my father, so I had some access. That was good. But I mean, I can't. I've been fired off shows. I mean, stuff that like you would not believe. I mean, and I say in this industry, if you haven't been, then you're not making it. So
Talk about that. What
to
was
get
it
into
like?
that,
Like, I don't if you want to, but like what was it like getting fired? Like, how did that make you feel? Were
oh
you like,
my
what are you
gosh,
doing? Like, I'm
in
supposed
an
to be
industry
here.
that you love,
Right.
well, there's, I mean, there's a lot of egos, and okay, so to make do sometimes when I was in college, I would second AC, or I would first, or I would operate, and there was there's a couple times, but one time in general, I'll give you two examples. One time was because, and I hate saying this, but it's the truth. Uh, when you have a high level of competency and a couple people are above you, they're gonna have a real hard time with you because they do not want you to make them look bad. So when I saw who
Mm.
they hired right after, I was like, "What?" I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" I mean, it wasn't like any kind of fight, never put them down or anything like that. It's just I just knew what it was. I'm like, "Okay, I get this." And then there's other times where you make mistakes. Like, I grew up in film, like loading film and doing all that stuff, and the tally charts and all that stuff. So when you're second a scene, you got to keep track of all that stuff on the back of the slate. The combo of stuff is so much more in depth back then than it was now.
Mm.
And if you did one simple mistake, because it's so costly on film, one can had a mismark or something that I did or something. And this is actually funny. Stephen Douglas Smith, who's a great DP, he's DP'd for Spielberg and everything. Great friend of mine. We've won a lot of awards together. He's DP'd some stuff for me in the past, and then now he's on my TV series Operated, and he operated on Just Jake for me. He's a family guy. Like, this is another example of people coming up. There's never too much pride. Not DP. Come in and operate. Just enjoy being around it and stuff. And one of them, a close friend of mine. But I was on one of his shows, and they made him as the DP come to me. I was young, to the truck and say, "Hey, B, da da da." And I'm like, and I already knew because I know how this industry is. I'm like, "All right, cool, man." And he goes, and he knew it's gonna suck because whoever they bring in is gonna have to catch up, and it's gonna be
Mm.
miserable. But
Mm.
there was a way at a certain point in this industry where producers are like, "Nah, he got to go." One tiny mistake, you're gone like that. But it defines you. It makes you better. It makes you good. It makes also made me understand how I wanted to be as an executive producer and a director. And Brian Bird knows this. On
Mm.
our films, I have a rule with everyone. Anything that, especially when we go into states with new crews and stuff like that, always give second chances because I believe this industry never did. And
Mm.
I didn't really get that. So I rehire people even with big mistakes and stuff, and we talk about it. And even if they did multiple mistakes, but I give them a second movie a lot of times. And then if that still doesn't work and it's not there, then I explain why, because I want them to succeed when they leave us. and
Mm,
maybe there's some other place they belong or some other group they belong with. So
man.
yeah, it's never easy, but this is a cutthroat place, to be in. I don't recommend it for everybody.
Yeah. Could you explain to us and me what the difference is between an executive producer and a director in terms of role, all of it? Just go.
Well, there's a definition to it that's pretty direct, and then I can give you the deep thing. But from the
We're about to
business,
deep dive here.
I'm an executive producer from the scale of everything, from the surface. They
Mhm.
finance the movie,
Okay.
or they found the financing for the movie. If you see like a co next to producing or co-executive, now this can change, but generally in those titles, it means somebody assisted in some aspect of that. Um, there's people who like clinch on in this business, and I mean it's just the truth. But yet they clinch on by making a phone call or introducing somebody, and then want to demand it.
Mm.
It happens all the time. It's this nature of this beast. But actually, an executive producer generally is the financing. Now there is creative executives too, like Brian Bird is a
Oh,
creative executive producer on our projects. And if I come in on a project outside of directing, I usually come in as a creative producer or creative executive producer. If I was brought in by the money or or the
okay.
production company, if they finance it themselves or something like that. Now executive just means you're in charge of the finances over the
Okay.
project. You also own the project, so there's a particular majority of the time, yes, not all executive producers. Or let's say they own a production company, services like camera equipment and rental house, all that stuff. If they somehow assist in the financial attribute of the project above just getting paid,
Mhm.
like they were making deals to, give back onto the production value, then they would be an executive producer. There's a lot of lines there. Um,
Wow.
but as a director, you're actually considered an employee, but you're that employee above the line.
Mm.
So when we do budgets, there's the below the line and above the line. And then from a director to producer, executive producers are above the line.
Okay.
The below the line starts the chief of the crew, director of photography, gaffer, and then you have your spider effect from everybody, your
Yeah.
keys of every department. And when we say keys, those are the heads of the department,
Okay. Okay. This is great.
generally speaking. Now on big movies, keys can change. Like if you're a first assistant AC on a camera on a major big project, like when I was post pulling, if you're on a big movie, you're the chief and you run the truck. That it'll be like some massive truck. You're in
Mm.
charge of that whole crew for every camera assistant from there on out.
Mm.
Um, and you chief it up. So then there's like built up, and you're considered a key at that point, even though the DP is on a lower scale thing, the key. But that's how we kind of branch out on bigger shows.
Now DP, that's director of photography, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And are they in charge of the quality of the picture in terms of like lighting and blocking and things like that? Or does the director
No,
do blocking?
blocking is directing. Now,
Okay.
directors will do a certain amount. It depends on the competency of the director too. I mean,
Mm.
this is honesty.
Yeah.
A DP, what we generally is the chief of the crew, and probably has the most experience to on most shows compared to directors, unless they're
Mm.
a really well-oiled director, a lot of experience, done a lot of stuff. Um, and if they come in only as a director, if they've built themselves up through the industry, then they'll have a lot more skill sets. But a DP will design the shots, the mood, the tone,
Mm.
pastels, but the director decides it a lot of times. Now, they'll do composition, they'll design blocking to fit the composition. If a
Okay.
director doesn't understand eye lines and certain things, and a lot of times the actors direct, this happens a lot, and they'll cover that basis for them. They're
Mm.
there to guide them and protect them through their decisions that they're making. Ultimately, the director has the decision. I'm way more hands on. So
Mm.
like I'll go and create an overall pastel of colors for that movie, and
Mhm.
then I'll create a pastel of colors for the characters that fit into that universal
Mm.
pastel.
Okay.
And then I will apply those to hair and makeup and wardrobe and all that stuff. I will apply that to cinematography. And then I'm very adamant about my shots. And I'll
Mm.
explain why those shots are the shots. My dad's gotten better at this because now he knows. He's like, no, he knows what he wants. Like, and and so there's reason for it. And I'll explain it to everybody, and that way they understand why I'm doing something. Because
Yeah.
a lot of times they'll just look at a scene for a scene, and then shoot coverage and try to get the best lighting for that for their sake. But I go, no, that doesn't fit the sake of the whole movie. This scene means this to tell this whole story.
Mm,
And this paintbrush here, I might want to go a little bit moodier than just this overall look you're going for. I
mm,
want to be real moody here and I want to be short and contrite. I don't want
yeah,
to do a big opener shot and stuff. I want a slight push at the end for the intensity, and I want it to be separate from the other characters so we're feeling their intuition, their emotion and everything of what's going on, whatever it may be.
yeah, man. So you just had your latest movie air on UpTV, which we're going to talk about the UpTV thing later on. But Happy Camper just aired, and then you have another one. If y'all haven't been on social media, between Bristow and we know that there's another movie coming out called Just Jake. So you have that one coming up soon. And I can only imagine that's probably going to be on UpTV as well. But could you give us what a typical day in the life of a director on a set would look like?
I can give you my example. I mean, I can give you the typical. I know what others are. I don't want to speak on their behalf out of respect for
Okay, okay.
them. But I can give you, yeah, I can walk you through it, and I think maybe this would help other directors too. Um, so I have my routine, but I do a review of my late night work that when I leave set, I work on it. And I keep these little black books with me. And the black book for each movie, and they go in a box when I'm done with the movie. And they're
Mm,
all my side notes. They're my change ups. It's not just the writing stuff on the script, it's personal stuff for the actors individually. Um, my moods I want out of that scene, the focal points, and then I have my shot list in there. And so I'll review that in the morning. I get into the car with my one of my best friends, Scott. And then what I like to do is have the actors drive with me a lot of times. So I make them jump in the same car, usually my lead, so we can have a warm up conversation that they can marinate on when they get to hair and makeup. It's all about time efficiency as a director.
okay.
Your job is to get your day done, hopefully not in overtime and everything else to make it costly. Some
Hmm.
shows just plan on it and go into it or whatever, but to get done the most you can. When I get out of that car, I go right to set. I actually don't eat in the morning while everyone else is eating. I let the crew do other thing. And I do this weird walk where I'm talking to myself in the scene and I'm walking it out for everybody. And then I do a sit down visualization of it coming to life, right? I already have
Mm,
it in the book and I know it, but I'm very visual. And because I know all changes could come. Like
mm,
you could have the best plan in the world. There's very outlined directors, and I have a plan, but I treat it like this. I put it at bay.
mm,
And if something feels better on that day, because there's something about on the day being there in the moment that will trigger things that are so beautiful.
mm,
And I'm a gut person, so I have to go with that. And so then when I'll plan the shots, usually everyone's getting done. Then I do a walkthrough with my director of photography and my gaffer and my first AD. And I don't let anybody else usually on. If there's like a key grip that need to be there or something like that, that's fine. I let the department heads decide. Sometimes the operators are there because I want to do it all in one and we have less time
mm-hmm.
and it's a bigger scene or something. I'll explain the shots and I'll say, okay, here's what we're gonna do here. We're gonna start here in the submaster. When we flip the world, we're gonna go for a master, and then I'm gonna do these on my tights. And I'm gonna pick up here. I'll warn them ahead of time. I'm gonna shoot a series to save us time so we can get to this. And I'll do some pickups. And here's my coverage on my overs or whatever, and I'll explain it all. And then I said I will give you more detail when we do our walkthrough. They start lighting and setting up. And then there's a pre-setup time where I will bring in my actors. I'll run a rehearsal,
Mm-hmm.
and then they see the rehearsal. No matter what they look like, they got to get on set. We run this rehearsal. I usually do a couple depending on how we're doing. And then once I've got them oiled, and this is where the set has to be super quiet. Once I've got them where I want them to be, and I got this feeling and this rhythm going, then I'll do one just for camera. They'll go again, and camera can see from my planned shots. And a lot of times, as that's going, I'll even look and I'll look at the DP and go, no, no, it's going to be here to here, and let's go jump on a 75 or something, whatever.
Mm,
And they'll know. I'll say, hey, no, stay dynamic in the wide or whatever it may be that I'm feeling. They break away. They come now. There's gonna be way more details to this, so I'm trying to brush through. But then they break away. They
yeah.
come back, and then we're fully lit at this point. What we'll do is some last minute touch ups. Obviously, hair and makeup throws in. We call lasties. Like I joke with it, but even it's the last time to come in. So last looks is really the term, but I can say lasties, and I call them Vance. And so lasties come in, they do their thing, especially on the tights. But if we're in the master, we shoot the master, get the flow and the rhythm. We'll usually in a run takes that we're doing, figure out little things we need to fix or whatever. Once I got it oiled, we're gonna jump in. We get our tights. We'll get lasties in there again, especially if it's Brit and stuff. We might do some, on Just Jake or whoever my lead female is. We like just a little different. Let's take a little time. Once that scene's done, I now move on to the next scene while the crew is breaking things down, or I prepare that room if we're using the same room or whatever. Do another walkthrough before I send them to hair and makeup and wardrobe if it's on a different day in the script.
Mm,
So, and that builds up throughout the day.
okay.
I don't eat lunch on purpose. If I could ever do it with the crew, I will. They know that. But I actually spend that time as my solitude time by myself to review the script,
Mm,
and then I go back
mhm,
up to. I like a really quiet set when no one's around. I don't know what's with it. Like I will
mhm,
walk in the room, especially on days where you got intense stuff going on, and I will walk the rest of my day through. Like the next scene is the most important, and I'll feel it. I'll just go, okay, this. When no one's around, I don't get bothered. I don't have anything, because once they get in there, it's a million questions. And so
mm,
then, once the crew is setting up for that scene too, then any scene that's going on, I will break away to wardrobe. I'll break away to hair and makeup. I'll do all the reviews and checks because I got to sign off. I sign off on everything.
mm,
Yes,
mhm,
yes, yes, yes. Or we'll battle stuff like Gigi and Just Jake. I based her character off frames, and if the frames weren't right, we didn't. The wardrobe was going to be right because that's
mm.
part of her character. She changed frames every day. We changed her hair every day. But I would start with frames, and then frames would determine the hair and how the wardrobe would flow. And once we got the
Interesting.
right frames, we knew we were on the right move. And that was just some kind of key for her. And then I create nicknames for everybody, and so it's easier to remember, and themes. So we like, does this fit this theme? Let's think about that. And then they'll pitch ideas to me, like, let's audition it. I don't know. Let's see what we got. But it's so funny. They'll audition stuff, but then when you see something, you go, no, that's right. Okay, yeah, I love it. Let's go with that. But it's just constantly staying
Wow.
on top of every single department in the mood and tone. I run around like a crazy man though. So
That's it's so eye-opening because it also, like, going back to your point, you wanna make sure you have people around you because of how many your hands are in so many different departments, and you're also dependent on so many different people in so many different departments to all of you come together and accomplish this goal. How do you now as Brandon Clark, not as the director, how do you wade through the BS of a lot of like, how do you wade through all of the fake, the phony, the BS that you may find in the film industry?
Um, a lot of times, like I try to meet them, and yeah, God gives you discernment. Personalities is a big take. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah,
if I sit
yeah,
with them, I let them talk. I ask a lot of
yeah,
questions real quick. I don't need to deliver because you're already carrying that experience and wisdom and discernment sitting there, and
mm,
so you let them go. And then there's some key points in every department. Like I had a new wardrobe person on Just Shake, and the one thing that was so cool after the interview and just asking questions of feelers was watching their excitement on things I would say.
mm,
And then, oh, and that keyed and then keyed. What it told me was their response means it isn't about it coming from me. It's about how good the idea is that they're going to take it and make it
yeah,
better.
yeah,
And even if my idea wasn't that great, they see where I'm going. And if they see potential, because that's how I survive, is seeing potential in people, actors that no one's used, whatever's going on. Like I seeing that potential and how they fire up at all cylinders. What I loved about this last one was that she would pitch stuff,
Mhm,
but then love the decision we came to in alignment. And I
mm,
wanted her to continue pitching stuff. And every once in a while, the pitch was way better than where we headed. There was times where I came in and just shut it all down, but
mm,
I told why and descripted, and we looked at each other, we thought about it, and then I would say, no, no, no. And she knew I was a gut feeling, and then go, okay. And then she could take it from there. And it was, it's direction.
yeah,
Sometimes direction is the greatest thing to be given,
yeah,
as an artist. If
absolutely,
someone gave me
absolutely,
direction on something, it's like the script. The script gives me direction, right? Like
yeah,
now I can have all the fun in the world with it. It's
yeah,
now yours.
right,
Go bring breath and life to this, right? Like it's a
yes,
whole different perspective. I think that's the best way, but it also depends on the positions. Um, like when it comes to camera and stuff, if they just say things, I mean, like when someone starts talking, I'll know right away if it's
mm,
crap or not. I mean, there's just
yeah,
logistics, and this is why, honestly, To be honest with you, love, I literally have veterans on my sets a lot because they speak my language.
Mm,
I mean, I've got a gaffer who's on his 95th film, and but man, but I speak the younger generation language with the older generation language because there's some beautiful stuff I learned as a kid in the traditional stuff
yeah,
that is way better than things we do right now because
yeah,
they're the reason why we got to where we are. But now
mhm,
technology is dividing that, and
mm,
it's like technology is still separating the vision of what actually are the components and foundations that got us there. Like, what are the original art forms and pastels that made the software be created like this? So they're
mm,
skipping this huge gap, not understanding the conceived notion. Because if we lose this, we don't figure out how to create more of this.
yeah,
Like, so there's this weird dividing line. So I try to give a balance on our shows because they can teach the younger ones so much by being in the trenches and their experience, and then the younger ones can teach so much about their drive and their heart and their fire under their belly to get going in this, and they
yeah,
got tech down a little bit different, and the way that there's some young guys that just they get the camera so well, and I can hear by how they talk whether it's BS or not, even if it's cameras I'm not used to like dissecting anymore. But
mhm,
there's just common sense to it.
yeah,
um and I'm so appreciative of that because it allows me to know that I have a really strong crew and a strong family.
yeah,
They got your back.
yeah,
And I believe that a lot of the crews lately and know I have their back because I hope in my heart they understand this. The most selfish thing in the world is to be a director because they're all here for your vision. I'm like, what? I mean, for real, right? Like,
yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
dang, that's a strong concept to conceive, right? So
yeah,
I try to remind them, like, as much as I can, man, I can't even tell you how grateful I am. I'm asking you, the most selfish person on the planet, to be here for my vision. Number one, and you're the final sign off. But that comes with a heavy responsibility
yeah,
because you're only as good as your last job, right? Like, I feel like I bear witness to getting them their next work and feeding that fire and getting that's a responsibility and weight that you carry too, not just going out to make a movie I like, or
mm,
something you have one project that you have a passion about. This is bigger than that, and this is something that's a universal language. It's entertainment. We take our time to make something great for people to appreciate and for our audience to care about them
yeah,
because they could be going through something in their life, and let's say it's a moment of escape or an alternative content, or
talk,
it
brother,
brings just a wee bit of hope.
yes,
You know what I mean? Just that one moment can change, even though it's only for an hour and a half, 2 hours, it can change a life. You don't know. I don't
for
know. I don't
real,
have to, we never know what's going on.
for real, like,
That's a strong,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, no, no. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, literally, I was just talking to someone about that last night. I was on Instagram Live for like 4 hours, and we were talking about any and everything. But one of the things that came up that a movie actually prompted us in talking about was the importance of art and how necessary art is to the soul, how it feeds the soul and nourishes the soul. And I think it does human beings a disservice when we try to downplay it and when we try to downgrade it as something so frivolous and something so like we just playing in the tulips outside and just laying in sundresses. Like I really am on like the you know what I mean? Like I'm really on a campaign trail to
It's
get
true.
people, like to get people to see how important, whether it's sculpting, filming, writing, vocal performance, dancing, whatever it is, like the medium of art in and of itself, which is why I love God so
Mm.
much for this, is so necessary. I think it brings a completeness to the human being that we wouldn't have had otherwise. And it honestly, it also emulates our creator as well because I mean, just
That's it right there. I
you could
was
just
just about to say that.
yeah,
I said, what greater, you're on point. What greater
yes,
example of the great creator than to be a creator yourself? I
yes,
mean, you want to get close to the king. I feel closer than him than ever when I'm on shows and working and diving into stuff.
yes, yes,
It's a piece of his DNA in us to be a creator.
yes,
It's the way we're
yes.
designed, all of us.
Yes. Literally, I was talking about that. Sorry, I'm screaming. I'm sorry, y'all who's listening. I was I was talking about that to the people last night. I was saying like for me it's writing and literature. So when I'm writing a book and thinking of like settings and characters and plots, and like that's when I feel alive. Like that's when I feel the rush. That's when I feel the adrenaline. That's when I feel the purpose. That's where I feel it. And I think when we have whether it's family who don't want to support whatever, I just think we do ourselves a disservice when we don't honor and respect and take seriously art the way that I feel like it should be. So this
That's
is
right. And
Dara. That was my
I
TED
think
talk.
there's times where you got it there. You nailed it. I also believe that art has its variables that we don't realize. We put it in a box. Like science is
Mm.
an art. Like there is art to
Yes,
everything. So this is where, and math is an art. Like my brother is a physicist, and
yes,
I watch him like that's an art because it
yes,
takes a so defined skill and a complete gifted talent from you that it's an art. I'm like, come
yes.
on.
You don't understand how I was just talking about my older sister, she's a nurse. So she definitely has more of the scientific brain, but where we collide is space. Like you can see the science of astronomy, but can you not also see the art of the cosmos? Like it's like, oh God. Like it's
Hmm.
so amazing. It's so amazing. And this is why I enjoy connecting with people in this space as well, because film is a very much a new art form for me. I just kind of stumbled down the steps into this. This wasn't planned. Like, and so to learn different aspects of filming, and more importantly, different perspectives from different positions within the filming industry, it shows you how big it is, because we just, as viewers and
Yeah.
fans, we just see a movie, like we just see the final product, but we don't understand all of the, like everything that took place behind the scenes to bring that 80 minutes or 120 minutes, whatever it is, to our screens for us to enjoy, for it to be that escape, which is why I wanted to interview you and also interview more people behind the scenes, because it's just like
I'm so glad
mind
you're doing
blowing.
it. I mean, it blesses us because the truth is, we think, most people, they watch the actors and everything, and that's what they care. And I understand that's what they're most familiar with because that's what they see.
Sure.
But the depth of what goes into it and what's behind that, it's a really powerful, awesome thing
Yeah.
because it's a bunch of people coming together to make something work and to believe in something and get it done. Even if they're separated from the script, there's just some kind of unifying, powerful alignment of trust and bringing their gifts and talents in their department and everything. And when that all comes together, that's why I feel like I'm a conductor, and the good thing I can
Mm.
multitask because it's a beautiful orchestra, and
Yeah.
there's probably no accident. My mom is a conductor. Like I'm like, this is making more sense to me. God's creation and stuff. It's like I'm
Yes.
like, wait, okay, I guess I got a little mama traits going on too. So it's like,
Yes.
and she's extremely talented, no doubt. But it's like, and I refer to me. That's why music is so important to me in my movies too. Like I think about music so
Mm.
early on because
Mm.
it can either destroy a scene or it can uplift a scene. It can either
Mm.
make an actor, shift from what they were actually trying to accomplish or assist what they're
Yeah.
actually accomplishing.
Yeah.
It can either drive emotion away or
Yeah.
pick it up and bring it to us closer. It's so insane, the reality of it. And like in the each movie I treated the music differently. Like Engagement
Mm.
Plot had its own popular move, but I wanted classical to be almost a touch of pop, so we started with
Mm.
fast classical move, right? And Dorico did a great job and stuff, and those guys did a great job. And then I went different with Happy Camper, where I had some country artists, but when we composed, it was Tyler Michael Smith, who's Michael W. Smith's son, who's
Shut
extremely
up.
talented and gifted. Yeah, he did.
You can't just throw that name around and we not just take a moment of silence. What?
Oh,
Oh
Tyler,
my
Tyler did an amazing work. He's fire. We're probably going to do a soundtrack now because everybody loved the music so much. But I was like, cool. And Tyler wants to do it. So, and he's really good at melodies. And Ryan and him are different, in such different ways. And it's so good because they have their own touches. But then that's part of directing, is seeing everyone else's talents and where does it fit to this
God.
and who's right for this
Mm.
one. And then Dorico came back on Just Jake, and I wanted to be very minimalistic in the music on that one. And we did a lot. If you notice
Mm.
when you see the movie, a lot of piano very subtle, holding notes long for tension to
Mm.
rise because the scene fulfilled its own entity. And
Wow.
also, we have a lot of guitar because we're writing songs, very authentic nod back to Nashville and the songwriting, and all of that is real performed music throughout the whole movie. And we wrote the song on that movie before we shot the movie because I wanted the song to tell the story and the movie to
Wow.
tell the song. And there's a beautiful essence without giving too much away that he is writing the song, but he can't finish it because he needs her side of the story. And it's like anything we do in life.
Oh,
Like it's when we're making movies too. It's the same thing. So when you do see it, I hope you're blessed by it. And all these movies have their own touch.
I can't with you.
You
This is
crack me
too
up.
much. This is too much. Okay, so you mentioned The Engagement Plot and Happy Camper, and Just Jake. What all of those movies have in common is that they are and will be on Up TV. And if you don't
That
know
is
this
true.
already, listeners and viewers, I shared this. I talked about this on my podcast. It was in the news segment, but your production company, True Brand Entertainment, you guys inked a deal with Up TV to give us some movies. Congratulations for that. Number
Oh, thank
one,
you.
absolutely. And number two, like, does inking a deal with a specific network come with any type of pressure, or do you feel that that was like it's a happy marriage because they know what you bring, you know what they bring, so on and so forth?
I mean, I'll be really honest in this because I think that's the best policy most of the time. We live in a little too held down culture right now, but the truth that we have no obligations locked down to them or anything. It is now we've done 3 movies of that 4.
Okay.
The fourth is an option, and it looks like we'll do this. We'll do a fourth one right now, and we'll probably grow in our relationship with them, and I hope we do.
Yeah.
Here's why. One thing I love with Charlie and Larry Levinson and what Up is doing, um, they're like a little man on the totem pole, but I'm okay with that because I'm like, guys,
Yeah.
help us help you be relevant and everything, and bless you because I
Yeah.
love what you're about because they don't put restrictions down so much.
Yeah.
Like it's not like, oh, this is our style. Like Hallmark has that, and GAC or GAFM, like Great American Family. Now they all have those certain touches, and that's good because they fulfill their audiences, which we need,
Hmm.
and it's important because everyone needs some form of audience, and they're going to pick their favorites. That's the nature of the beast, no matter
Yeah.
what.
Yeah.
But what's beautiful here is I feel like we're kind of in the middle. And it's like I just want to be able to hopefully speak to everybody
Yeah.
and hang out with everyone. And I believe that's just what we're getting from that. Up has been very good to us and gracious. There's no pressure. I mean, like we go and make our film independently, and technically it's an acquisition back to them. It's just that we made
Mm.
a deal with them to go. Hey, these 4 can go to you, or we could go shoot some other ones and decide which 4 go. You know,
Mm.
um, but it's a great marriage so far. I love where Charlie's headed. I love what Chrissy and Hector have been extremely supportive over there too. And like if you saw in our variety, release too, it's just we want them a part of everything too. People to know them, know about them. I
Yeah.
think less people know about them.
Yeah.
So it's all about growth as we grow. And it's a cohesive, marriage is great because they're very entrusting in us and likewise for us to them.
Yeah.
And I hope that's how everybody can be with a network. But it's hard for those networks too because you can't trust every movie that's going to come in. You can't trust every
Mm.
production company. That's just the truth.
Hmm.
You don't know the quality of care. Look, we all have different taste buds at the end of the day,
Right.
and some
Right.
people should not maybe do this business or maybe should not be in that position.
Yeah.
But all power to them for trying and getting there, and if something they want to try and like. But I think for us, um, I mean, that this wasn't something I thought I would be doing,
Oh, I
and I
know.
love this for my company, and I don't know how much longer I will, but I love this for the jumpstart of our company because our company is going to continue to do this no matter what.
Mm.
And I felt like I could meet my audience halfway, and I did feel like in this space, and I'm going to be straight, is it had a lot of flat lighting. It thought, oh, flat is funny, and then I'm like, this isn't even funny. It's like you make noises to be funny. Like, what is going on right now? And then maybe the audience likes corny. I don't know. So maybe I can go 50-50. So I said, hey, one thing I do know is I can be cinematic and be funny, and I can be cinematic throughout the whole film so that we can feel the emotions more intensely. And I also felt like, man, let's bring characters alive. Was it just like like
Mm.
across the surface? So like even with my actors on these, I'm like, we talk about this. We create a lot of back history that you don't know about. We're trying to get it on the page, but there's only so much you can do. But I know that because we carry that, we know the back history and the creations we're talking about, it
Yeah.
shows up on the lens in your feelings and emotions and looks and deliveries of lines. So
Yep.
there's a lot to that. And then also in those discussions, change how I approach the shots for those emotions. And there's so much subconscious that goes on when people are watching. They may not notice it, but I know they feel it. And
Yeah.
that's what matters. And I hope to
Yes.
God that we keep making movies that people want to watch again and again.
Yes.
It's not just about
Yes.
making it to where they see it. It's about
It's that
seeing movies again
rewatch.
and again.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
Like you
That
said, timeless.
yes. Yes, sir. Oh my gosh. I wish we had 3 hours, but we don't. So because of that, I am going to ask you this one last question before I let you go. For anyone who
All
may
right.
be listening, Brandon, what would be your advice to them if they had a desire? Either it sparked some, like them listening to this sparked something and now they want to go into directing. Like, what advice would you give the people if they want to get in this industry and then get into directing?
I mean, there's many paths to it. I would say get to work on set, be around the environment, more importantly in the trenches, whatever it may be. AD department's a great department. Start working as a PA to move into a second assistant to a first assistant. Um, Now, first ADing starts to get more complex and stuff, and becomes on the production side of everything pretty heavily. Um, or script supervising, things like that, and get into the trenches of it. But also start story compartmentalizing your own stuff. Writing too, it helps a lot. Like
Mm,
I actually left the film department at one point to go to screenwriting for a little bit, just because you're the final storyteller. So
mm,
we make 3 movies. It's the one we write, it's the one we shoot, and then the last one is the one we edit. And to go through all those processes, because if you don't know editing and you don't know screenwriting, and you're sure as heck not going to be prepared for what's in the middle, which is the deep dive, and you need to be prepared for that. I would recommend finding a mentor, by the way.
mm,
And Brian Bird has said this, and I think it's great. And I think this is powerful for anybody in this position. He goes to like film schools or places and talks. And I thought it was I love when I hear something great. So I'll give anybody the credit in the world when it's on point. He looks over at this group of kids and he says one thing. He goes, "How many of y'all are writers? How many of y'all are directors or whatever?" And everyone raises their hand. And he goes, "Okay, how many of you guys have all been paid for that position?" And every hand goes down. And he goes, "You aren't that until someone is willing to pay you for it."
mm,
And here's the thing, it's the exchange of art, right? A painting that
mm,
gets put on a wall, but when it gets exchanged, it's appreciated, right? Or purchased if there's that transaction. There's an appreciation for that. So, hand in hand, get paid to do something in that forum first so that you can
mm,
learn what gets around that to be that to get paid to do that. I think it's extremely important to do that. And also on top of it, in this industry, make sure you freaking love it because you will go
mm,
through the grind and you
mm,
have to be willing to give everything up. And I mean that wholeheartedly. I warn everybody with that. It's a very, very cutthroat, tough industry. And
mm,
if you're not willing to, then you don't have the passion you think you have for it. Um, and then beyond that, I'm like, go for it, get after
mm,
it, just try it at all costs. But there are tricks to the trade. There are people to get around, but you need 3 champions in your life, 3 mentors who are going to back you. Our parents will always tell us great job,
right?
whatever. And Brian said this before too, and he says it much better than me. But I've gotten mentors, so blessed with so many mentors in my life, and I keep them around. Cleve Landsberg has been a huge mentor in my life on the DGA National Board and of Directors Guild of America, and he's just and he went from cynical to a champion.
Mm,
But I learn in cynicism, and I learn in a lot of down talking because I was an athlete and it was a different time too. It's just how I respond. But I would say get around those mentorships because they're going to inspire you, they're going to lift you up, but they're also going to be hard on you when they need to. And you need 3 people who actually tell you got a gift and talent at this. Like,
yeah,
so you're in the right direction,
yeah,
not
yeah.
just one.
That's gosh, time keeps on ticking. Y'all, this was such a treat, was it not, y'all? Y'all, his name is Brandon, and the link to the Variety article that we reference and to see all of his movies, there'll be links in the show notes and in the description box if you are viewing this via YouTube. Brandon, once again, thank you. You were just dropping gems like the flower girl at a wedding, and I can't. So we're just gonna
Stop.
we're just gonna dip out of here. My name is Dara, y'all, and I will talk to you guys in the next episode. Ciao, my friends.